Struggling single mom invites mysterious stranger to stay. What happened next will move you. The rain started unexpectedly, drumming against the window in relentless sheets. Sarah stood at the door of her small apartment, heart racing as a rugged stranger appeared through the downpour, seeking refuge. Jack. Even his name felt heavy and loaded with promise and peril. "Can I come in?" he asked, voice roughened by the weather. She hesitated, her instincts screaming one thing while her loneliness whispered another. "Invite him in, just this once." As a single mother juggling 2 jobs, Sarah felt exhaustion weigh her down. Nights spent serving greasy diner plates and days filing documents at a dentist's office left her utterly drained. With 2 young children, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, the precarious balance of her life felt like teetering on a tightrope. She could barely muster the energy to laugh on her good days, let alone follow the impulse to help a stranger. Still, there was something about Jack, a silhouette of rugged charm that sparked a fluttering warmth in her chest. She stepped back and nodded, a silent invitation. Days passed into a week, and the small repairs Jack made around the apartment began breathing life into the old place. He tightened wobbly doorknobs and painted scratches on her childhood dresser, transforming her cluttered home. Sarah found herself laughing, a sound that felt foreign yet sweet. The kids adored him, and that did more to warm her heart than any repairs could. But the ghosts of her past haunted her solace. She was still a woman whose husband had crossed out of their lives without a backward glance, leaving her alone in a modest hand-me-down space that felt far too big for her bruised heart. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then came the stormy afternoon. She stumbled across the newspaper. A headline blazed across the page like a klaxon: "Architect's scandal rocks the community." Her heart sank as she read Jack's name, a name that had taken root in her home. He had been implicated in the very corporate greed that turned lives upside down during the recession. She gripped the paper tighter, her mind racing. What if he was just biding his time until he needed something from her? Questions knotted in her stomach as anxiety spiraled. She watched through the window as he played with the kids in the yard, tension pooling between admiration and distrust. What did it mean that she felt safe with someone whose past loomed large, threatening to steal her moment of happiness? Jack, with his wry smile and easy charm, was a paradox. Was he just a man who wanted to help, or was he cloaked in ulterior motives? That night, after the children were tucked in bed, Sarah invited him to sit on the worn sofa that held innumerable secrets. The flicker of the lamp caught his gaze, revealing vulnerability she hadn't noticed before. Her heart raced as she prepared to confront him. Would the truth shatter the fragile trust they had built? Would admitting his past break her resolve? There was only one way to find out, and Sarah steeled herself for an answer that could alter the very fabric of her tentative happiness. The silence in the room stretched like a taut wire. Sarah's breath hung in the air, thick with uncertainty as she searched Jack's face for answers. The flickering lamp cast shadows that danced ominously along the walls, amplifying her anxiety. She could either confront him about the scandal or keep her curiosity at bay, continuing the fragile peace they had carved out together. "What are you running from, Jack?" The question slipped past her lips, unbidden and raw, reverberating in the small living room. She immediately regretted it, the barb of vulnerability cutting deep, but there it was, her unyielding instinct to know the truth. He looked up, startled. "Running?" The word lingered, hanging heavily between them. "Your past," she pressed, willing herself to maintain eye contact. "The rumors, the scandal." His gaze softened, unveiling layers of pain she hadn't anticipated. "I'm not running, Sarah. I'm trying to make things right." She leaned back, concealing her surprise. What did that even mean? In that moment, the remnants of her own choices flashed through her mind, a parade of decisions made in despair, divorce papers inked with bitterness and nights spent drowning in regret. Would Jack's quest for redemption mirror her own? Right, how do you plan to do that? Her voice quavered as doubt seeped through her resolve. Jack took a moment to gather his thoughts, the turbulence of his past evident in the way his jaw tightened. I made some mistakes, big ones. But I want to rebuild not just my career, but who I am too. Sarah's skepticism stiffened her spine. You think you can just waltz in here and change everything? My life is messier than you think. His lips curled into a faint smile, confidence cutting through the tension. I thrive on mess. Look around this place. It looks like my life, too. We could clean it up together. The challenge electrified her. She felt it pulsating in her fingertips, a flicker of hope defying the heaviness of her situation. Jack's presence was both an anchor and a flyaway kite, tempting her to reach for something she had all but abandoned, trust. But why now? Sarah's voice barely subdued her growing intrigue. Why help us? I'm a flawed man, he admitted, his eyes steady on hers. Flawed people deserve another chance, right? Her pulse quickened, caught in a storm of conflicting emotions. Was she ready to trust another man, especially one with such a checkered past? This conversation shed a new light on Jack, mixing admiration with caution. Could he possibly be her ally against the doubts that battered her every waking hour? Internal questions loomed large. If Jack sought redemption, could she, too, accept her own? It seemed like an impossible reach, but perhaps they could teach each other something vital. Okay, she breathed, barely above a whisper, the decision weighing on her. I want to try. The room fell into a comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts, foundation laid, walls cracking in places they each hoped to rebuild. Yet as the night deepened, doubts flickered like the shadowy light. The promise of change was tempting, yet precarious. That very night, Sarah lay awake, contemplating the frightening edges of vulnerability. The weight of her decision settled over her like a storm cloud, a foreboding reminder that the past is not easily outrun. As she wrestled with her emotions, a new determination sparked within her. If she could face her demons, maybe, just maybe, she could reclaim the life she had lost and help Jack rebuild his. Tomorrow would bring its own questions, challenges she could hardly foresee. But the need for courage bubbled beneath the surface, urging her to step forward. Tomorrow would come, and with it the answers she sought, but clarity often obscured itself in the dark. Would facing Jack's brokenness ignite a strength within her or shatter the tentative bridge she had carefully constructed? The morning light spilled into Sarah's living room, casting a hesitant glow over the clutter that symbolized her internal struggle. The remnants of her life, a mix of kids' drawings, unopened bills, and the remnants of meals cooked in isolation, created an atmosphere of chaos that mirrored her thoughts. She felt the weight of her decision settle on her shoulders, heavy yet somehow refreshing. Today was the day things would shift. She wasn't just going to drift through another day of her disconnected existence. After weeks of feeling stagnant, Sarah made her way to the kitchen, where the scent of brewing coffee filled her nostrils. She could almost envision it, as if the steam drifting upward had the power to clarify her purpose. As the kettle began to rumble, uncertainty clung to her. Could she truly support Jack in reassembling his life when hers seemed so tenuous? She poured the coffee with determination, willingness to awaken something solid within herself. The moment Jack entered her mind, she recalled his eyes, the depth of his sorrow and the flicker of hope they bore. If he was set on changing, perhaps it began with vulnerability. It was a foreign concept for her, yet the promise of honesty ignited something fierce. Clutching a mug that felt warm against her trembling hands, she sat at the counter, lost in thought. She had navigated so many storms alone and had grown adept at pretending everything would be okay. But her attempts to maintain control had kept her from reclaiming the parts of herself she had lost. Today, she resolved to strip away her layers of self-doubt and embrace the chaos as a necessary step toward rebuilding. The day unfolded slowly. She did what she had always done, worked remotely, ran the house, and managed her children's needs, but today, there was a flicker of intention behind her actions. She started drafting an email to her boss that she had been avoiding, detailing her desire to contribute to projects that excited her. Feeding this spark of ambition felt like reclaiming lost territory. As afternoon faded into evening, she heard a knock on the door. A familiar sound pierced her focused bubble. It was Jack, almost as if the universe conspired to keep her on this path of discovery. His genuine smile, almost boyish, met her wide eyes, and for the first time since their last conversation, she felt an undeniable warmth pulse through her. "Ready for a mess?" he joked, stepping inside and quickly scanning the room. Her laughter came easier than she expected. "I think that ship has already sailed." Together, they began tackling the living room, organizing toys, sorting through unopened mail, and rediscovering lost treasures buried under layers of obligations. Each item they cleared away felt like a release, a physical manifestation of their intent to shift their lives. As they worked, Sarah gradually opened up, sharing snippets about her life, her children, and her dreams that had dwindled under the weight of routine. Jack reciprocated, his stories woven with remnants of uncertainty and reflection. There was an honesty in their exchanges that felt refreshing, as if they could each be unguarded without pretense. But as the room grew cleaner, so did their past narratives, untangling the threads of blame, and hope and rediscovery. Sarah felt a swell of determination tighten her core. She could forge a new path for herself, not just helping Jack, but in the process, also claiming the pieces of herself that had remained dormant. As the shadows of evening deepened, Sarah found herself contemplating an unsettling realization. Could the emotional mess she was unearthing parallel the professional chaos she now faced with her career? The thought made her pulse quicken. Both Jack and her were striving to reconnect with their true selves. And in the pursuit of fixing one another, would they discover what was necessary for their own growth? Just as she began contemplating the risks of this personal endeavor, Jack caught her gaze with an intensity that made her heart race. "We're in this together, right?" he prompted gently. The shared vulnerability held an electrifying charge. Tomorrow loomed like a fresh canvas, and this moment hung delicately between them, teasing the potential of a much larger commitment, one that might extend beyond mere partnership in messy living arrangements. Was Sarah ready to tackle complexities of heart as much as the clutter surrounding them? The realization struck her hard. The real journey had only just begun. The morning dawned hazy with unresolved questions. Sarah awoke with a jolt, the intimacy of the previous night's discussion still tingling at the edges of her consciousness. What had begun as a spur-of-the-moment invitation had morphed into a pivotal moment. Could she genuinely allow herself to become part of something larger than just her own existence? As she stumbled into the kitchen, the weight of her own life choices pressed against her. Jack's presence in her home stirred a mix of trepidation and exhilaration. She had always been the strong one, capable of managing her children, her job, and all the chaos that accompanied them. But now, the very idea of soliciting help, whether emotionally or professionally, felt both daring and overwhelming. Sipping her coffee, thoughts circled back to that email she had so carefully drafted the day before. The message loomed like a specter, an embodiment of her desire to break free from the monotony of her current role. Each word sat heavily on her shoulders, representing aspirations that felt increasingly out of reach. Would she send it today? With a deep breath, she moved to her laptop, but instead of typing, her fingers hovered above the keyboard. What if the response didn't align with her vision? In that moment, doubt surfaced, a familiar companion threatening to dissolve her newfound determination. Yet, in the back of her mind, Jack's voice lingered, reminding her of their shared commitment to overcoming personal obstacles. She took another sip of coffee, relishing the warmth flooding her. A newfound clarity began to crystallize. She wouldn't let fear dictate her actions any longer. With a sense of urgency flickering in her chest, she opened her email draft and began to type. The words flowed more easily than she expected, transforming her nebulous thoughts into tangible ideas. "I believe I can contribute in more meaningful ways," she wrote. Each line felt like a commitment to herself, a testament to her willingness to evolve. Upon hitting send, a release washed over her. Uncertainty still thrummed beneath the surface, but this act felt like a decisive step into the chaos of newfound possibilities. However, it wasn't just the professional path that beckoned. Uplifted by her actions, Sarah pondered her role in Jack's journey. Once she finished preparing breakfast for her children, her mind drifted toward him. The day unfolded slowly, she anticipated his reactions to her growing sense of adventure. Would he see the spark of confidence igniting within her, or would he, too, be shackled by his past? The idea of them evolving parallel to each other felt both exhilarating and daunting. When Jack arrived, she greeted him with an unexpected smile, a gesture laden with newfound assurance. They settled into their routine, sharing laughter while navigating the challenges of the day. Each small task felt monumental, a testament to their cooperation and commitment to support one another. But beneath the laughter, Sarah sensed the lingering shadows of fear. Would their burgeoning alliance withstand the realities of their existences? "I sent that email," she finally admitted during a moment of stillness, her heart racing at the admission. Jack turned to face her, curiosity lighting his eyes. "Really? That's fantastic!" he exclaimed, a supportive warmth radiating from him. His encouragement affixed a smile to Sarah's lips, a flicker of recognition passing between them. Yet, amid the supportive exchange, unsettling thoughts began to creep in. What if her journey into unknown professional territory led to failure? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. But as Jack relayed stories of his own struggles, she felt bolstered by the idea that failure wasn't the end, it was merely another step in construction. As afternoon slipped into evening, they fell into a rhythm, each fostering hope for the other's capabilities, while also wrestling with unacknowledged fears. But contemplating that very balance illuminated an even larger dilemma for Sarah. Could she be enough for herself and for Jack too? The weeks ahead promised mutual growth, but how intertwined would their individual paths become? Each moment swelled with the promise of conflict, but also the potential for an enriched existence. Just as they sat down for dinner, a thought pierced through the tranquility: was she ready to explore the intersection of their lives? And more pressing, how would her decisions affect not only her own identity but also the fabric of their connection? In the charged silence that followed her internal questioning, Sarah realized she stood at the precipice of a new journey. Tomorrow would demand even greater courage, as her own professional aspirations nudged toward the forefront of her thoughts, an adventure waiting to unfold. Yet it also demanded clarity in navigating the unpredictable terrain of her relationship with Jack. With a full plate before her, she blinked against the uncertainty gathering in her heart. What would the next day bring? The sun crested timidly over the horizon, filtering through the blinds like soft fingers of light. Sarah rose earlier than usual, her mind swirling with possibilities. The weight of the previous evening's conversations hung like a delicate ornament, beautiful yet precarious, threatening to shatter should she reach for it too eagerly. Today felt different. The email she sent had ignited a flickering flame of ambition within her, but its outcome still lay beyond her grasp, winding through the labyrinth of her uncertainty. Each tick of the clock reminded her of the courage she had summoned and the risk she had taken. In that moment, she realized that growth often required a willingness to lean into discomfort. As she bustled about the kitchen, preparing breakfast, a plan took shape within her mind. If she truly wanted to capitalize on her newfound clarity, she needed to embrace the uncertainty of the coming day fully. Actions, she decided, must echo intention. Beyond the breakfast table banter, there was an imperative: how could she continue to nurture her budding professional aspirations while delicately navigating her evolving personal dynamics with Jack? After sending the children off to school, she found herself standing at the threshold of her home office, a modest space cluttered with the remnants of her previous projects. The sight of old files and notes weighed heavily on her. How could she transform this collection of chaos into a beacon of her aspirations? She spent the rest of the morning organizing, filing, and discarding. Every piece of paper sorted felt like a shedding of old skin, making room for revitalized ambitions. Mid-morning, Sarah decided to seize the day further. She opened her laptop and began researching workshops and seminars related to her field. The screen illuminated with a universe of opportunities, new ideas, innovative methods, and inspiring stories of personal development. A stirring sense of possibility coursed through her as she clicked through pages, her heart quickening with every registration form she filled out. Each selection felt like an affirmation, strengthening her resolve to step away from the sidelines. In the midst of her burst of productivity, Jack's text popped up on her phone, breaking her concentration. "How's your day going?" It read, simple yet inflected with genuine interest. She smiled at his thoughtfulness, but couldn't dismiss the creeping doubt that prickled her excitement. How would Jack, with his past challenges and uncertainties, respond to her ventures into new horizons? Taking a deep breath, she decided to respond openly. "I'm taking some steps toward my goals today. How do you feel about that?" With a click, she sent it, heart racing slightly as she anticipated his reaction. The vulnerability hung in the air, thrilling and frightening in equal measure. When he replied, it was with enthusiasm. "That's amazing. What do you have planned?" His supportive tone both relieved and inspired her. Here was Jack, encouraging her to ascend, even as she feared the unraveling of their delicate dynamic. Bolstered by his words, Sarah spent the remainder of the day drafting plans, business ideas she had shelved for too long. A stirring thought navigated through her mind: what if she could actually utilize her accumulated knowledge to foster not just her identity but create something that could benefit others? This ambition beckoned to her as a call for significance, a chance to intersect her world with Jack's. Later that evening, as she felt the fulfillment of a productive day, a quiet tension settled in her mind. She realized that with every step forward she took professionally, there would be implications for her relationship with Jack. They were both on paths of potential growth, yet the uncharted territories created an undercurrent of conflict. Could their relationship withstand the flipping of roles, the shifting of identities? Sarah bit her lip as she contemplated the intertwining of their destinies. The next morning, an ominous question loomed large: how would they navigate this newfound ambition together without compromising their individual journeys? As she laid her head on the pillow that night, the circuitous pathways of her thoughts coiled anxiously in her mind. Tomorrow would demand further clarity on her aspirations and how those would forge the future of their relationship with Jack. What decision would she make when the time came to merge their paths? The morning light poured more confidently into Sarah's home office, illuminating the fresh canvas she had created from the remnants of her past. The organized chaos no longer felt oppressive; instead, it reflected her determination to move forward. She stared at her desk, where ideas for her budding business lay scattered, each one a testament to her aspirations. However, as the sun glinted off the screen of her laptop, a sense of urgency propelled her that morning. She needed to take action that went beyond mere planning. The first task on her agenda was to draft a proposal for local businesses that could potentially benefit from her skills in marketing strategy. She envisioned herself not just as an employee but as a partner, someone who could provide insights that would nurture and grow their brands. With each word she typed, a new sense of purpose surged within her. Yet, doubt crept in with every keystroke. What if they dismissed her ideas as irrelevant? What if they dismissed her altogether? With a determined flurry, she hit send on the proposal just before noon, a cascade of adrenaline washing over her. The forceful tap of the keyboard faded, replaced by the ominous silence of waiting. She had crossed the threshold into uncharted territory, and now the implications of her choices danced in her mind. Would Jack come to view her newfound ambition as a threat or an opportunity? Reeling from both accomplishment and anxiety, she spiraled into thought about the email she had just sent. A wave of self-recrimination washed over her. Was she moving too fast? Did she truly have the right to pivot her life when so many depend on her? It was this moment of reflection that shook her. It dawned on her that seeking personal fulfillment didn't equate to abandoning her responsibilities. Perhaps, she could redefine those responsibilities through the lens of her own growth. That evening, Sarah prepared dinner, the sounds of clanging pots mingling with keen anticipation. Jack entered the kitchen just as she was setting the table. The way he smiled at her stirred both warmth and complex emotion within her. She braced herself for the conversation they needed to have, knowing her decision to pursue professional growth would ultimately require them both to adjust their understanding of each other. "Hey, you," he said, wrapping an arm around her shoulder, leaning in for a kiss that melted her tensions momentarily. "How did your day go?" "It went well. I submitted a proposal today," she replied, her voice steady but her heart racing. Jack raised an eyebrow, a mixture of interest and encouragement evident in his expression. "What kind of proposal?" As she detailed her ideas, she saw the flicker of curiosity in Jack's eyes and felt a thrill of affirmation. Yet, threaded through his enthusiasm was an underlying apprehension that gave her pause. Was he questioning if she could balance this venture with her role as a mother and partner? "Wow. That sounds great, Sarah. I just hope it doesn't take too much time away from us," he said, nearly hesitantly. The warmth of the moment faded. Did her pursuit of independence seem like a drain on their time together? She could sense an invisible line drawn, one that they both approached cautiously, unknowing how to navigate their evolving relationship dynamics. "I don't want to neglect our time together, Jack, but I need this both for me and for us. To grow, to learn, and who knows, it might even benefit our family in the end," she replied, her voice steady, but beneath it lay layers of vulnerability. As they shared a quiet meal, Sarah felt a tension rising. Jack, too, was at a pivotal crossroads, with his job as a mechanic burdened by the weight of discontent. They needed to face their uncertainties head-on, but the prospect intimidated her. Each needed to find their voice, to find a way forward. Could they confront their fears of growth together, or would the potential for one cast shadows on the other? That night, Sarah realized the conversations they needed to have were not just about ambition and time management, but about trust in herself, in him, and in the choices that would shape their futures. The questions loomed larger than before: how could they balance personal dreams while ensuring their bond remained intact? How would they fortify their relationship against the changes that lay ahead? As Sarah drifted into sleep, the weight of tomorrow's decisions loomed over her, hinting at the challenges yet to unfold. Would they stand together against the currents of change, or would they drift apart as ambition tugged them in opposite directions? The following morning was cloaked in an overcast sky, a stark contrast to the vibrant resolve that had illuminated Sarah's spirit the day before. This uncertainty mirrored the pathway she was navigating, cloudy yet full of potential. While brewing coffee, she replayed her conversation with Jack in her mind, dissecting each moment, weighing meanings and pondering implications. If their relationship were to flourish, they needed to be willing to embrace change, not resent it. Sitting at her desk, she opened her laptop to the familiar glow of the screen. She had resolved to reach out to potential clients once more, rather than retreat into self-doubt. This time, she wouldn't just propose strategies, she wanted to establish herself as a visionary. A thought struck her: what if she hosted a free workshop? It would not only show her expertise but also give her a platform to connect with people who could benefit from her services. As she began drafting a new plan, ideas morphed into a structured outline. The title popped into her mind: Marketing Made Simple, Strategies for Local Businesses. She felt a rush as she envisioned the room filled with eager faces, all absorbing her insights and techniques. The excitement was infectious. She could feel a shift in her energy, as if she were channeling her ambitions into something tangible. Yet, lingering in the background was the whisper of her insecurities. What if no one showed up? What if she failed to engage them? Casting her doubts aside, she meticulously planned the workshop's content, discussing practical strategies, real-life case studies, and actionable steps for attendees. Each detail painted a vibrant picture of what the experience could be. She knew deep down that sharing her knowledge didn't just exemplify her skills, it showcased that she was worthy of respect and acknowledgement in her field. Later that afternoon, Jack returned home early, a certain heaviness in his demeanor. She could sense the tension radiating from him, the unspoken words swirling in the air between them. As he slouched on the couch, staring vacantly ahead, Sarah felt the urge to reach out but hesitated. Their tensions were imperfectly aligned, her current excitement clashed with Jack's burdensome realities. "Hey, Jack, I was thinking about hosting a workshop for local businesses to share some marketing insights," she said carefully, gauging his response. He turned to her slowly, taking a moment. "That sounds ambitious," he replied, his voice lacking the enthusiasm she craved. "What do you mean?" she asked defensively. I want to support you, but I'm worried." "Are you sure you can handle this on top of everything?" There it was, the doubt again. It struck her like a blow, piercing through her hope. "I can handle it, Jack. This is part of my growth," she asserted, a flicker of anger igniting in her chest. He needed to trust her, believe in her abilities rather than tether her progress to his own anxiety. "Look, I know you're excited, but it feels like you're on this roller coaster without considering where it leads us. What about our time together? What about the kids?" he challenged. Every instinct urged her to withdraw into herself, to ease the tension, but this time felt different. She stood her ground. "I am considering all of that, but I also can't ignore my ambitions. It's not just about marketing, this is about who I am." The tension thickened, hanging between them like a fragile thread waiting to snap. Sarah battled the urge to retreat, knowing that doing so would squash her voice. Would Jack understand that growth sometimes meant disrupting the status quo? As silence enveloped them, she contemplated if she could bridge their differing perspectives, or if this was a hurdle that would only widen the chasm between them. She needed to find a way to align their dreams without compromising her own identity, but uncertainty loomed large. That night, as she prepared for bed, the faint reflection of her hopes flickered like a candle in the dark, vulnerable yet resilient. She realized that tomorrow would demand not just ambition but courage to face the unspoken truths shared with Jack. Could they truly embark together on this journey of growth, or would the gulf of misunderstanding keep them apart? With a determined resolve flooding her mind, Sarah's heart beat steadily in anticipation of the conversations that lay ahead. The moment of truth was drawing closer, and she understood, growth would require more than just vision, it demanded relentless, unwavering honesty. The morning light filtered through the curtains only hesitantly, revealing the lingering weight of uncertainty still haunting Sarah. She blinked against the muted rays, aware that the conversations she hoped to have with Jack would not easily resolve their contrasting perspectives. With a deep breath, she rose, her mind racing with thoughts not just about the workshop, but about how this was the moment her personal narrative could transform if she let it. After dropping the kids off at school, she parked outside a local cafe, a cozy haven where she could concentrate. The smell of fresh pastries danced around her, inviting yet grounding. Pulling out her laptop, she began drafting the promotional material for her workshop. Each word blossomed on the page as she poured her enthusiasm into the description. This wasn't just an event, it was a movement toward her own reclamation. Yet as she typed, she felt a pulse of concern. Would locals perceive her as a figure of authority? Would they find value in her insights? Sarah shook her head, shaking off the nagging doubt. She recalled her last position and the high praise she once received. Her voice had resonated within boardrooms and collaborative sessions, why not extend that influence to her local community? While crafting the details, she thought about the people she could invite, friends, acquaintances, even business owners she casually met at the market. Each name conjured memories, some buoyant and hopeful, others tinged with the regret of potential connections unraveled by the weight of her hesitations. With a decisive keystroke, she resolved to draft an email invitation to an online community group, a bold but necessary step forward. Just as she pressed send, the door to the cafe swung open, and in walked a stranger. Dark-haired and striking, he radiated an aura of confidence that immediately caught Sarah's attention. He ordered his coffee and settled into a nearby corner, reading something intently. While part of her urged to dismiss his presence, another part found comfort in the thought of conversation, the kind that might encourage her to continue standing her ground. That thought lingered as she moved through the day's activities, running errands, collecting the children, and prepping dinner. Each task felt interwoven with an undercurrent of potential. She sensed a quiet transformation. Every decision she made steered her away from retreating into a shell of doubt. She didn't have to choose between nurturing her family and embracing her ambitions. Rather, she envisioned building a framework where both could coexist. In the quiet moments after putting the kids to bed, Sarah found herself reflecting on her priorities. The impending workshop felt less like an obligation and more a gateway to growth. Jack's skepticism echoed in her thoughts, but now they became a catalyst for determination. Combating his reservations might require her to lay bare her ambitions even more vulnerably, but she felt ready. As weeks passed and responses to her workshop began trickling in, her anticipation grew. A mix of excitement and anxiety stirred within her, a reminder of how far she had come. A couple of attendees confirmed their registration, a faint but hopeful sign that she was not alone in this venture. But it was the nagging feeling about Jack that wove itself into her thoughts. How would he respond once he saw her embracing her potential? Her heart raced with the prospect of confronting this delicate balance of family expectations and her dreams. The idea of facing him with confidence ignited a spark but also conjured waves of apprehension. The time came for her workshop, and just before the doors opened, she couldn't help but wonder if this moment marked a definitive shift in their relationship or if it was merely the beginning of a more profound conflict. With a final breath, she aligned her inner strength, stepping forward into this new realm of possibility mingled with uncertainty. As she stood before her eager audience, the light of their expectations washing over her, a powerful realization settled within her. This was not just about marketing tactics, this was a rebellion against doubt, an affirmation of her identity. Who she was and what she aspired to be could become one if she allowed it. But just then, her phone buzzed quietly in her pocket, Jack's name lighting up the screen. What lay ahead in that moment could either fortify her resolve or unravel everything she had begun to build. Should she answer now or wait until the evening, after the audience had absorbed her insights? The choice felt monumental, looming like a tempest over her burgeoning aspirations. Sarah's heart thudded as she stared at the glowing screen of her phone. Jack's name served as both a beacon and a threat, igniting a rush of conflicting emotions within her. On one hand, it felt like a lifeline, on the other, it was a stark reminder of the burdensome weight she carried in their relationship. Could she really allow this moment, one she had fought so hard to create, to be interrupted? As the murmurs of anticipation in the room filled her ears, the buzz of the phone grew louder in her mind. She envisioned herself answering, a strained conversation unfolding under the watchful eyes and ears of her audience. What if she lost the thread of her workshop, of the message she wanted to deliver? What if Jack didn't understand? Those doubts spiraled tightly, but beneath them lay a flicker of determination. Steeling herself, Sarah slipped the phone back into her pocket. She would not allow Jack's voice to cut through the fragile clarity she had only recently begun to embrace. It was time to confront not only her own insecurities but to restore faith in her decisions. With a measured breath, she began her workshop, the words flowing easier than she had anticipated. Each participant's eyes sparkled with interest, their questions igniting conversations that rekindled her passion. The energy in the room was palpable, each interaction a stepping stone toward reclaiming her narrative. Today, we're not just going to learn about marketing ourselves, we're going to explore how our stories can empower our professional journeys, she spoke with a newfound conviction. It starts with recognizing our own worth and the value we bring to our communities. The words hung in the air, an affirmation ringing true not just for her audience but for Sarah herself. She felt a release, the earlier tension dissolving into something brighter. The participants leaned in, engaged, uplifting one another as they shared their own stories of struggle and triumph. For the first time, Sarah didn't just represent herself, she encapsulated collective ambitions, a vessel of community potential. Amid the dialogue, a shift occurred. She no longer worried about how Jack might respond, instead, the focus was on crafting a narrative that honored both her aspirations and the complexities of her life. She stood confidently before her audience, an embodiment of the very reclamation she had envisioned. But just as she hit her stride in discussing techniques for overcoming self-doubt, a sudden thought pierced through the excitement. She recalled the deep bond she had with Jack, their shared dreams, the laughter they had once found in each other's ambitions. Had those moments been lost to the shadows of uncertainty? Where could genuine connection fit amid her drive for independence? The workshop drew to a close, applause echoing around her. Responses poured in, compliments laced with gratitude that filled the void of uncertainty she had felt before. Yet beneath the surface, an internal conflict still stirred. With a grateful smile, she dismissed the participants, encouraging them to stay connected. As the last chair was put away, Sarah took a moment to breathe, a quiet sense of accomplishment enveloping her. Yet the phone buzzed again, this time more insistently. "Breathe, Sarah," she whispered to herself, pulling the device from her pocket. Jack's name again shone brightly. She could feel the familiar rush of anxiety tugging at her resolve. Part of her yearned for a resolution, another to maintain the ground she had just reclaimed. This wasn't merely about responding to Jack, it was a crossroads that would shape her journey. Who would she choose to become in the face of his uncertainty? With a decisive inhale, she reached for her phone. Would answering bring her closer to clarity or ignite another wave of doubt? The weight of the moment pressed down on her, demanding a choice that could redefine her week, her relationship, her identity. Just as she was about to press accept, the door creaked open, and the stranger from earlier stepped back into the cafe, his gaze locked on her. What did this unexpected encounter mean for her newfound strength? The day after her successful workshop arrived with a brightness that felt almost symbolic of Sarah's burgeoning confidence. She had conquered the fear that once held her hostage, standing before a crowd not just as a facilitator but as a beacon of inspiration. The seminar marked a turning point, but quietly, her thoughts danced around Jack's unresolved doubts and her complex emotions regarding their relationship. Today, she felt determined not only to cherish her personal triumph but to confront and unify the fragments of herself that remained tangled in their relationship dynamics. As the children were occupied at school, Sarah decided to invite Jack for coffee, an opportunity to bridge their disparate perspectives with openness and connection. They needed to discuss what had transpired during the workshop and how her newfound ambitions could coexist in harmony alongside their shared responsibilities as parents. Once he arrived, his initial smile did little to mask the tension simmering beneath the surface. They settled into the corner of the local cafe, the atmosphere buzzing around them. Jack's eyes searched hers, a mixture of curiosity and unease swirling in his expression. "How did it go yesterday?" he asked, his tone light, though his body language betrayed a deeper concern. Sarah took a breath, feeling the weight of her aspirations fluttering in her chest. "It was exhilarating. People were engaged, and I think they genuinely found value in what I shared," she responded, allowing herself a moment to bask in the glow of her accomplishment. "That's incredible, Sarah!" Jack exclaimed, pride flooding his voice. But the shadows that lingered in his demeanor cast a doubt over the moment. "But I have to ask, where does this leave us?" His question hung in the air, heavy with significance. Sarah knew she had to be honest, yet she felt the familiar tangle of vulnerability creeping back. "I want to make this work for both of us," she replied, her voice steady. "But I also want to grow and achieve my ambitions. I need you to trust that this can strengthen us." Jack shifted in his seat, the tension in his brow betraying the churn of emotions within him. "It's not that I don't want you to succeed, but I'm afraid I won't be enough to support you while you chase these goals. What if it takes us down different paths?" Sarah felt a swell of understanding. "I get that, Jack. But I believe that by pursuing our passions, we can reinforce our partnership instead of jeopardizing it. We both have our individual journeys, and I think they're meant to intertwine, not clash." He sighed, the lines of worry across his face softening slightly. "You've always been the strong one. But part of me worries about losing you in this process. Just as I'm learning not to lose sight of myself in the pursuit of our shared responsibilities," Sarah said, leaning in closer to him. "This isn't just about me achieving goals, it's about both of us rediscovering who we are and who we want to be together." As they spoke, the cafe faded into the background noise of the bustling world outside, every shared word forging a new understanding. Sarah saw Jack's demeanor shift, the flicker of his smile returning as he began to process her intentions. "When you put it that way, I feel a lot better. Maybe it can be a bit of both us taking our paths while still lifting each other up," he replied, the warmth returning to his voice. "Exactly," she affirmed, locking her gaze onto his, filled with resolve. "I don't ever want to rush ahead without you, but I also refuse to dim my ambitions because of fear. Together, we create a harmony that benefits us both." Their conversation unfolded like a dance, gently revealing each other's vulnerabilities. With every confession, Sarah felt an undeniable tether growing between them, a commitment not just to shared responsibility but to the dual pursuit of their passions. As they finished their coffees, Sarah had the distinct feeling that they were stepping toward new possibilities. Here, in the comfortable chaos of life together, they were shaping a future neither had fully envisioned but both could explore. Jack reached for her hand, a promise sealed in his grip. "Then let us do this together," he said, his eyes filled with renewed warmth. Days later, as they embarked on new endeavors together, Jack finding solace in his custom mechanic shop while Sarah developed community marketing collaborations, they realized their lives had transformed into a tapestry of ambitions and support, each thread integral to the overall design. Sarah accomplished more than mere professional growth, she grasped the essence of partnership. In navigating her aspirations, she embraced Jack, recognized their strengths, and fostered a resilience that honored each uniquely remarkable journey they were on. Standing proudly, both as individuals and as partners, they celebrated a future filled not merely with love but with mutual respect for the paths each had chosen. This understanding fortified their bond, and what once seemed like a daunting challenge blossomed into a shared adventure. The rain outside slowed to a gentle drizzle, mirroring the calmness that enveloped Sarah as she stepped into this next chapter of her life. It wasn't merely about achieving dreams anymore, it was about truly becoming a team on the journey and embracing all the messy beauty that it entailed. Now was the moment of reflection and fulfillment. Sarah had illustrated that bravery coexists with vulnerability, and together they could conquer whatever challenges life threw their way. You need to subscribe now to this channel and not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the content you love. Comment your reactions and theories about this powerful conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Don't wait even one more second to act. Your support matters.